Hi guys, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, as always, Steve Hall, and this week I have Steff Noble on the show. She is the president of the WNBF UK. The WNBF, for those who don't know, is the largest and most competitive natural bodybuilding organization in the world, and she's headed up the WNBF UK over the last few years. She's also a pro within the WNBF, within the fit body category. She's also a coach and helps many people take the stage, and also a very good posing coach as well, and clearly very passionate about the sport as a whole. We dig into that passion. Where did it start? Where is it now? How did she get to where she is? We also talk about her experience at WNBF Worlds. You can think about that as the natural kind of Mr. Olympia in many ways, and how it was judging some of the most crazy physiques that you're ever going to see in a natural sphere. And we dig into more of her passion and how we can grow natural bodybuilding to be more present as a whole. The enhanced side is clearly beating us on that front, and I think some people just aren't simply aware of what opportunities lie taking it down the natural route. So I think it was a really cool discussion, and to help reach more people, please do share this podcast with anyone you think might enjoy it. Make sure to tag myself and Steff over on Instagram if you are sharing it and listening to it. We appreciate that. If you aren't subscribed, make sure you just click that button, especially if you've listened to multiple episodes and are enjoying the damn thing. Make sure you subscribe. We really appreciate that. Give us a review, comments over on YouTube. All that stuff helps the podcast grow, reach more people, and yeah, I just would highly appreciate it, guys. But without further ado, let's get into the chat with Steff. So Steff, you have a really impressive competitive resume, which I don't think many of the audience will be aware of. But before we dig into that too much, where did it all begin for you? Because I think a lot of competitors have really interesting backstories, and I think yours is one that I think is probably quite interesting, and I'd love to tease out a little bit.
Of course, yeah. So, I mean, where it all began was 2013. That was where the bodybuilding competitive sort of journey began. I was living in Leeds at the time, or just outside Leeds, and I was actually in a completely different profession at the time. I was running a children's theatre and education company. So I was running events and doing children's workshops and educating children in a myriad of different ways, basically taking academic subjects and putting them in an environment where they could learn kinesthetically. So moving, dancing, physical, obviously personal training. I was doing a lot of things with young people at the time, and it brought a lot of things together for me because I'd come from a performance and more of a business background. And then I'd added in my personal training at the time, and I was doing a lot of building up my own understanding of my body and what I wanted from that and the journey I was going to go down. And that brought me into the gym environment a lot more. And I started to, I suppose, jump off the back of my dance career and the type of movement and training I was doing for dance, and start to increase my enjoyment and love for the weights. And I was in a very hardcore bodybuilding gym in Leeds, and I met a lot of fun people. And on the wall was a picture of, at the time, it was Nicole Wilkins. So it was the IFBB figure pro at the time, which was a very soft physique nowadays terms, but back then was that lovely kind of figure lines, gorgeous muscle, very strong woman. And I just thought that I want to do that. I want to look like that. That's where it all sort of began for me. And I was really lucky that I was in a place where a lot of other natural bodybuilders were. So I was training with a few girls and just a couple of guys in the area who introduced me to the Natural Physique Association, so the NPA. And that's where my enjoyment and sort of my love and my research started to kick in. And the journey kind of started to unfold from there. So I thought, this is something I can do because it's bringing my love for the stage, bringing my dance background and my performance element, the things I really enjoyed, but coupling that with the sort of pursuit of training my body, and why that was a really important thing for me at the time where I was in my life. So they came together really nicely, and that set me on the journey of, in 2013, doing my first show with the NPA. So that's a bit of backstory to begin with.
I really like that, particularly because the thought that came into my mind when you kind of talked about the person that you looked up to obviously
Mhm.
more than I assume this IFBB kind of pro and like the winning everything there, they're enhanced. And so if you want to achieve that, likely that's the route you have to go down. And
Mhm.
I know obviously you're a natural competitor and the
Yeah.
president of the WNBF. I think you'd kind of need to be in that case. And so it's really cool. I was going to be like, so what stopped you going down the route of going enhanced? Because I think it's,
Yeah.
especially nowadays, at least it feels very easy for people to get drawn into that. In fact, I talk to people who are natural and they compete in untested federations. Sorry, and I'm like, I talk to them through about the WNBF or the MPA or various
Mhm.
associations they could go with, and they just don't seem to have that awareness somehow. It's kind of surprising to me sometimes.
Yeah, it's amazing that we still to this day have people who are unaware that natural bodybuilding is even an option. But I mean, I think where I came from, I was very lucky to be around people who understood what that was and obviously introduced it. I actually knew more about the natural bodybuilding circuit than I did any assisted open circuit to begin with, which is probably a little bit different to the average person who stumbles across bodybuilding in the gym. I knew obviously you have the stereotype to begin with, don't you? You hear the word bodybuilding, you attach Arnold to it, and then you you obviously 2 + 2 = 4, and you kind of think those things in your head. But it wasn't ever something that I was really that. It wasn't even something kind of on my radar. I just thought, oh, here's a local show. I can get in shape. I just come off the back of trying to get to sub 10% body fat for a Brazil holiday. I was quite lean. I thought, hey, I can do this. This is something I can do. Um, the kind of question around people sort of, jumping on an untested stage or I suppose questioning whether they should go down the enhanced route. I think for every bodybuilder at some point, there's a curiosity there. You want to maybe find out more. You ask questions, you talk to maybe assisted bodybuilders, or, you explore your understanding of what that means. And I think I think any natural bodybuilder would be being dishonest if they hadn't sat there at one point and gone, oh my God, what could I look like if I was on this or did that? So I think it's a normal transition through your journey at some point to sit and question that. But really it comes down to, well, why are you doing it and what's it all about for you? And for me, being natural, being healthy, being feminine, and, just really enjoying training, born out something that I loved was more important to me and seeing how far I could go with that than doing anything that may be, well, extremely dangerous, harmful. And I didn't have a want or necessary need to really even get to where I've gone. I mean, it was kind of an organic growth of what happened, and then I pursued it even further with being competitive. But it wasn't something I ever set out on thinking like this is going to be a long-term pursuit physically for me, because yeah, that's kind of how it started. Hopefully that maybe answers some of that question.
Yeah, for sure. I absolutely agree with you. I think any kind of natural bodybuilder would be lying if they haven't thought, oh, what would
Yeah.
happen if I jumped on juice? Because it's, for some people, they see it as a natural progression. Like you hit kind of a bit of a plateau, or results slow down as a natural, and then you
Yeah.
kind of hop on. But as anyone who's been doing natural bodybuilding for a decade, you realize there's so many ways you can improve and get better and learn more. And
Yeah.
I mean, I fell in love with that process, just like yourself.
I think like sort of where my journey has evolved and where I am now in the position of being a federation head, of leading the way for natural bodybuilding in the UK, raising awareness of that, you know, it's become almost a bit of a pursuit for me, if I'm honest. It's raising awareness of healthy, clean sport in natural bodybuilding has become really crucial for promoting long-term health, preventing and discouraging the use of, substance abuse, because we see that rife now in how that can show up in a myriad of dangerous ways across the industry. And then just really the other side of it is encouraging fair competition, like setting positive examples and educating people on why naturally trying to challenge yourself, born out of something that you love, the training, can be a really rewarding pursuit, not just for the act of getting on stage and getting a trophy, but actually the skills that you learn that are transferable to all other areas of your life and the community that you can come into, the people you meet. It just, I think for me personally, It's become very passionate for me to be able to try and pave the way to allow other people to think, actually doing this naturally is cool. It's a really good way of doing it. Is important. It's important for a natural bodybuilder to kind of not be a righteous natural bodybuilder shoving it down everyone's throats, but being proud of that and stepping up and saying, actually, it's really achievable. And look at the top level guys that are in, getting to world championships. I mean, we take a look at the world champions in the lightweight, middleweight, and heavyweight at the worlds this year gone. Two of them Germans. You had, I think it was Brian DaCosta, of course, the world champion winner. That is just a phenomenal, inspiring physique for any young male to want to try and attain. And the same on the female side of the sport, where you had Becky Pateman, the Fit Body winner. We had the natural bodybuilding pro, Natalie.
Yeah.
Her last name begins with H. I can't remember. Sorry, what it is. And then we had Natalie Woods in the UK win a pro card in the Masters figure division last year. Phenomenal structure, amazing frame, has been at this for years. And, it's showing that even at a slightly older age bracket, this can be achieved at a very high level. So I think for me, it's become very much it's a movement. It's really important to try and put the flag post in the ground and say, we're over here doing this the right way with stringent drug testing, fairness for sport. And even when you do have those wavering moments, stop for a minute, step back and look at the bigger picture, because bodybuilding careers, as we've seen with the evidence that we have, is a very short lifespan in the majority of male, and even shorter in females' lives, and so ensuring your health is intact within that journey, coming out the end of it with a physique you can be really proud of, and it's tangible, it's yours, and you've done that hard work, is something that's I'm very, very kind of focused on driving that message forward within the WNBF UK. But yeah, so I'm going down one of my passionate rants here. But I think we've seen a lot of natural athletes, even from WNBF UK over the last 3 years, who have been young, who've come on stage, been incredibly, promising, and have gone to the other side. And that is disappointing in some ways. But I can't be judgmental. I have to encourage as best we can. And that people will make their own decisions. But we're always here to really give them that journey and that route to something quite special if they want to kind of put the miles in. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. I like I'm in a very similar kind of my viewpoint on it's just like yours. Like, I'm not like a holier than thou natural. Yeah. I think natural's the best way. And like, if you're enhanced, you're, cheating or doing something wrong inherently by doing that. It's like, if it's a educated choice, and again, if you're like a young 20-year-old and you are showing huge potential and you're like, I could take it all the way in the IFBB leagues, whatever, like, excellent, amazing. But a lot of people aren't in that position. Most people aren't in that position. And I would say most people don't have any reason they need to go down that route. I would say the vast majority of people who are jumping on like anabolic steroids are people who think a Brian DaCosta, maybe he's not the best example. Maybe someone like myself, they look at my physique, they're like, that's not achievable naturally. And I'm like, oh, I mean, I think it probably is if you put in a lot of time and dedication. For a lot of people. Brian DaCosta, he's elite of the elite. It's a bad example because like it's obviously not achievable for many people. Like, I look at him and I'm like, I'm taller than you and lighter than you and a lot fatter than you. Like, this isn't fair. But that's like in any sport. Like, you have your Ronaldos, like you have your Messis. You can't expect everyone's going to be at that level. You have people who are below it. And I think the important message is, and the thing that I love seeing the WNBF doing, is just growing that awareness like you're trying to do, like getting better production quality and like videography, and like shining the light on people like Brian DaCosta, who has quite a big like social media following, because there's people will find him, find the WNBF, then see the shows. But yeah, it's the most disappointing when people, I think it's most of the, like, I just see this with younger guys a lot of the time, unfortunately, and they just look at someone and they look at a natural show and they're like laughing that there's no chance anyone there is natural. It's like, it's frustrating.
It is frustrating. And I think it comes with some of the culture, that quick success culture that we see a lot of now, like across Instagram and what we have more access to. And if I put myself, Stef, like in the mentality I had when I was in my late teens, early 20s, in comparison to Stef now, who's, dare I say it, creeping up to that middle-aged mark. And the mentality that I have now in terms of my health, my well-being, and being so grateful that I decided to just stick to the path, pushing forwards with what I was really passionate about. I look back at the younger Stef and go, I'm so proud of you for sticking it out, because I see a lot of the bravado and the ego and that chomping at the bit to be the next big bodybuilder online, which is really great. But I wish there was more role models around some of these young men who could show them various different ways and means in which they can get the same results, but just go the long course and almost put yourself in your shoes in 10, 15 years time. Where do you want to be? Like, what do you want to be doing? And not like you do the 3-5 years in business. It's kind of like 3-5 years in bodybuilding. Yeah. It's like, what do you want to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? And what are you willing to sacrifice? And is it going to be, are your decisions valid to where you are now? And, are they, I suppose, rational? Do they have foundation? Are they realistic? Going back to your sort of SMART goals. But these are some really important questions when you're entering into bodybuilding, particularly around the conversation of, are you going to go down the assisted route? You are throwing the dice. And for a lot of these guys who started quite young, and say a couple of the guys who've done WNBF UK, who've been really promising, and then you see on socials that they decided to go down that route, it's kind of like, oh God, like, do you realize what you're doing? But also, you've just jumped right back to the very beginning in a pool that is far greater and far bigger and far more diluted than what you could potentially achieve as a natural bodybuilder. But they don't believe it there and then, if that makes sense. So it's difficult to be able to push through that. And it does come down to who you've got around you, of course, your morals, your beliefs, your ethics, and hopefully your own research and understanding.
Yeah, it reminds me of something I heard recently, was something to do with, like, it's better to be climbing the ladder than be at the top of the ladder. Like, there's the joy comes from the journey and from like trying to make your way up. And I think that's where most people are. And it's rare that someone is, and I guess for the guy who is, maybe it's a Brian DaCosta, he's at the top of the ladder, he's like, I win everything. Maybe he's someone who has that decision. Then do I want to then take the next step here? Or do I want to keep, win it multiple times, do a Chris Bumstead and win, or Ronnie Coleman, whoever they are, winning that multiple times, win that world championship, like year in, year out, like Bader was doing for a period of time until someone else pushes you off. But it is challenging because, how do you give someone that level of experience? And I think environment is a big one, because it's the same for me when I got into this. Like, my inspiration was Matt Ogus. It was like one of my biggest inspirations. I know. So like, he's the guy I looked up to, and he was natural, and like that's what wanted me to compete as a natural. So I wasn't even interested in the enhanced side. So I think it is that awareness and kind of building profiles of natural athletes and physiques, and just trying to build the credibility around that scene and grow it as a whole.
Yeah, I think it definitely is growing though. I'm feeling a lot of momentum for natural bodybuilding, and obviously we've seen a couple of the open federations now are, dipping their toe in the water here in terms of trying to promote natural events, which is another side of the conversation. But I think if you just look at mainstream people right now, especially young people, there's huge push on, kids aren't drinking as much anymore. They're focusing more on their business goals. And, a lot of the jobs now are more technology based. And what comes with that as well is the kind of young Andrew sort of Tate mentality of like, just not that I'm condoning him, by the way, but just, the kind of be more disciplined, focus on your health, drive forwards with what you're wanting to do. And I think that is transcending a bit into kind of the fitness world, in a sense, that there is a lot of talk of trying to cut through now a lot of grey area fitness waffle that's sort of online, and it's very difficult to cut through. And I think there is this push now for really trying to find people who are giving sound advice, who are doing things the right way, who are educated and intelligent and smart with the kind of content they're putting out. And people are wanting more genuine, honest, real voices talking about their stories and wanting to follow down the route of that. And I think that's another reason why natural bodybuilding is on the rise. Natural sports certainly is on the rise because it's taking care of your body, your health, and your mind, and pushing forwards with that. So I'm sure we've still got lots more people to touch. I know we have, but there does seem to feel like there's a lot more people and a lot more young people who are more socially connected, interested in showing people how you can do this without, nefarious things involved.
Yeah, I like that that's your perspective, because I don't know well enough, but I think you have your finger on the pulse even more so because of the position you're in, because you see the numbers that are coming to the WNBF. You've got kind of an eye on that. You're probably talking to the other affiliates and everything across the world, and you kind of have, and I mean, I see the WNBF expanding into other kind of countries and everything. Even I think the OCB also now have just expanded into multiple areas. Obviously that's a whole nother discussion of like lots of different federations. Does that dilute things? Or I don't know where your perspective on that is. I don't really have a strong opinion on it. Same with, again, the enhanced or the untested feds then having tested or supposedly tested, some people might say, kind of natural competitions too. I think of that, like my girlfriend's vegan. She's like, these other like McDonald's and KFC doing vegan things. You could look at that and be like, oh, it's good to encourage those places to do that and like go and shop there, because then they see demand and they do more of that. So it's, I don't know, you could look at it that way. You could be like, why are you supporting like a company that is not to the ground vegan or something? It's similar here. Like, why support those federations in natural bodybuilding when you can support ones that are through and through natural? I'm not saying it's a great comparison, but it makes me think of that.
No, I think there's argument for that, and I think it's fair. I think I'm kind of in two minds about it. My initial thoughts around, say, a PCA running a natural show or two bros running a natural show is actually, great. Natural bodybuilding needs more focus and attention. We need to raise awareness of what natural sport is. But where the blurred lines kind of come around for me are, as long as the drug testing is visible, clear, as long as it is clearly stipulated what rules are followed and what it means to be a natural on that stage, then we can all support each other. I can share drug test results. I can be able to discuss on a level of, I suppose, result based, statistics or athletes who have come and gone, or we can share results from various different federations, etc. So I think natural sport is definitely becoming more popular. Other federations, whether they are running the events for the right reasons or whether it's not for the right reasons, is kind of a larger question, and one that, I'm certainly not going to go down. I'm going to focus on what we do and do it very, very well and promote, obviously, the WNBF. We are the leading federation in the world for natural sport. We do support a very high level of drug testing. We spend thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds a year to ensure that our events are tested in the appropriate way. But I think as a natural bodybuilder, you need to understand what being a natural bodybuilder is before you go and jump on any stage. And if you can understand what that is, and you can then seek, what's your drug testing policy? How many years clean do you need to be? What is expected of me in terms of presenting myself as a natural? Then you are starting to learn the psychology of being a natural bodybuilder. And that will essentially, I think, evolve you into a more intelligent athlete, because you know exactly where you're voting. You vote with your feet, right? You put yourself on a stage where you believe in the federation's principles. Well, that's how I kind of come at this. And that's almost how I encourage a lot of our athletes to come into WNBF, with the supporting material that we send out, with the website, with what we put out online, is when you come into our federation, we want you to have all of the rules very clear. We want you to be part of the culture which is supporting natural bodybuilding in the community. And we want you guys to help us raise awareness of doing this the right, healthy, clean way with these drug testing policies in place. So I suppose the takeaway from this, and waffling a little bit, but is learn what natural means and seek out the federations that are going to promote fair sport in the most obvious, visible way. Because if it's not visible, it's not happening. If you can't see the drug testing happening, it's not happening. If a finals is not fully drug tested, top to toe, whether it's urine sampled, polygraphing, it's not fully drug tested. And that is the truth. And we've seen federations where you'll go as a natural athlete, you may do a natural show, but maybe one person's tested and the other 100 aren't, or maybe only 2 people from 2 classes are tested, but not all the winners are. That's not a fully drug tested event. So do your due diligence and be a smart athlete and help keep the sport natural and clean. And that's why I always kind of come back to compete where you like. I would never, ever stop anyone competing anywhere. And that's something very important to us at the WNBF. We never want to make anyone feel that it's a wrong thing competing elsewhere. It's important to compete, gain experience. But if you're a natural bodybuilder, learn what that means and do it the right way. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And like the testing is what makes it natural, as you've said before. Like if you don't have that, you're just trusting that people are being good individuals and like being honest about kind of what's happened in their past or what have you.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, not everyone is that way.
It's the organisation as well. The organisation has to be responsible for proper due diligence around the drug testing. It's we're charging a certain amount for membership. That includes your drug testing, a lot of the drug testing fees in there. So I've got to show that it's there. We've got to show what it means and why it's very important to us. And if we're going to take a natural team of athletes like we did to the Worlds this year, we took 12 UK pros and 17 amateurs. Huge team. But we've got to go over to these international events proud of our testing and knowing that we're putting these athletes in an international forum to compete in the fairest, most stringently drug testing events in the world. And that's something to be really proud of, really, really proud of. And it's been really eye-opening for me as well, because I've been building up the judging across internationally over the last couple of years. But last year I was in a privileged position to judge 5 of the international events and the Worlds, of course, as well.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it was wild. It was great. It was absolutely phenomenal. I've loved every second of it. But it's really expanding my knowledge as a federation lead, but also just generally seeing now the coherency across all of these independent affiliates, but we all have a very clear bridge that transcends all of us, and we're bunkering harder and harder down on that, so that if you're a UK member and you decide you want to go and do the European circuit, France, Switzerland, Germany, Spain, we can rest assured that literally everything that we give you as a WNBF UK athlete, everything you will receive in terms of the information, hits the rules of these European shows. So we're becoming a really well-oiled machine in Europe, and we're working really hard towards European championships, obviously our world finals, and the pro circuit this year, which is going to be insane, which is exciting as well. So we've all got a pro show with various different divisions ready for the pros too. So that's quite exciting.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I guess like if you're as a competitor in the WNBF, whether you're stepping on the UK stage, Portugal, Germany, France, what have you, the judges are looking at you and judging you in the same way as whatever stage you're at. It's just whoever you're up against that might change the way you're going to place.
Yeah, and we're really talking quite stringently in our sort of affiliate. We have affiliate meetings regularly to discuss, the judging criteria, what we're looking for, making sure it's coherent. And the same with the drug testing as well, making sure that's coherent. We're all ramping up our out-of-season drug testing this year. So a lot of the athletes that may have been on stage last year may get a knock on the door with the out-of-season drug testing too. So yeah, it's just to make sure everything's coherent. Because the last thing you want as an athlete is to go to the same organization and be faced with a completely different set of criteria. It doesn't make sense, so that's something, we're really excited about, sort of pushing forwards and growing. We're tightening the ship in lots of different areas and continuing to lead from the front.
So you talked about WNBF Worlds, which is something I wanted to talk about because at least from the outside looking in, this looked like the most competitive WNBF worlds I've seen in the longest time.
Yeah.
Which was super exciting. Like I just said, Bada, who'd been winning it year after year, at least in bodybuilding, got like pushed off his top shelf there. Yeah, exactly. So for that sort of thing, and it just felt like via social media and kind of the outlets, it was like there was more hype behind it this year, which was really cool. How was it for you, especially judging at that level? Obviously, I've judged a number of times, but at the world level, I imagine it's quite a bit different. I don't know if it's more challenging, easier, or what it feels like to be a judge there.
It's quite, it's very intense. You know, that there's a level of detail that's expected from us as judges at that level. You can't miss, you can't skip. So whilst obviously every judging is intense, when you're looking at the likes of Benjamin Schuster, Dirk Emmerich, and, you know, Brian DaCosta in an overall, for example, and you're trying to, it's one thing seeing them on social media and on video, right? A few inches away, and you're looking at the detail within their conditioning, and you're looking at that pro level physique right there, and you're watching them from each position. And obviously, yeah, we're middleweight, lightweight, and heavyweight, but they're all exceptional. You know, it's different, and it's very exciting as a natural, you know, organizer and an athlete, and just a general, you know, lover of the sport, to be able to sit there and judge a show at that level and see these athletes come in from all over the world. And it's just getting that bit more detailed every year. The sharpness of the conditioning, the fullness of the muscle. I mean, some of the Germans coming through is just outstanding. And I'd actually say sitting on the German panel for their pro show is just as mind-blowing for the pro men's bodybuilding and men's physique. And any UK athlete, if you are a UK member and you want to go and do one of the European shows, I'd recommend the German one all day, because it is, these shows level you up as an international athlete. They give you perspective on stepping out of your pool of natural bodybuilding in your country and realizing, wow, okay, over here they're breeding monsters. You know, over here their conditioning is unbelievable. Over here, there's, you know, all this kind of incredible talent that's coming from all over the world. And it does allow you to start thinking outside the box and thinking about like how long it may take you to get that level of depth that you see at a world championships. So from a judging perspective, you're doing the same thing, but it's just intense, and the focus you have to make sure you're making the right calls in all 3 rounds is really, really vital at that stage. Yeah. I'm really lucky to have judged two worlds now. And I'm looking forward to Boston this year. But there is an eye to it. And now you've done it for so long. You've done it for a few years now, Steve, as well. There is an eye for it. Not everyone can judge. You have to look past kind of everything and just look at every single muscle individually, focus on your quarter turns, get them going round and round and round. Symmetry is symmetry. Muscularity is muscularity. You have to define the two very, very clearly in order to get the best result. So it's just enhanced and amplified by 10 when you're faced with monsters like those guys in the world.
I bet. Did you judge the overall between those 3?
I did.
Can I ask, did it go the way you had it?
Do you know, I honestly, from sitting there, it could have been any one of them. It really could have. I think Benjamin is that younger, fresher physique. He's just he's coming, if you know what I mean.
21, is he? Or
21. And you know, if anyone hasn't heard Benjamin's story about when he started bodybuilding in his early teens and his dad and all of that, I would go and check him out, because he's got a phenomenal story. And he's a quintessential example of a young man who has literally, through his peak years, just trained to produce what we saw in the world. And he's a fantastic guy. But Dirk's conditioning and his balance, his proportions are outstanding. And he is the legitimate pocket rocket in every sense.
Yeah.
You just yeah, you could unwrap him like out of like one of those kind of, what are they called? Figurines for, you
Oh
just take them
yeah,
out of the box.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's an action man.
He's an action man. That's it. Yeah. I mean, he's fantastic. But Brian's mass, you just couldn't overlook it. So, it was pretty unanimous.
Yeah, that's what because going into it, I almost, I hadn't been aware of how big Brian was. So I didn't really think Brian was going to be there. And I thought Barder would be in the overall and then he wouldn't take it. And Benjamin would, just because of, like, he's got almost everything. But yeah, Brian, the amount of mass he needed to have beaten Barder then completely made sense to me that then he'd go and win the overall just by that factor.
The heavyweight, we were really put to work on that, and Bob really put us to work on that. Just really, he made us look and look and look, because, size-wise, they're both giant, but Brian really brought impeccable conditioning. And it was clear if you were there to see that kind of depth. But it was a very heavy heavyweight, put it that way. It was a lot of time on stage. And I mean, some of these classes, even in the amateur, and this is something a lot of people perhaps don't realize in the natural circuit, we take a lot of time, not just in an international worlds setting. You've seen it at the WNBF UK. We take time over our judging. We put you through the rounds. We are doing our due diligence across the judging. We want to see symmetry. We want to see the next round with your muscularity and conditioning. And we do want to judge your free posing and how you move and what you're looking like. So I think that's something that we take pride in on the natural side of the sport. Some of that might be down to the fact that we don't have as many numbers on stage as some of these open shows, but I would rather quality than numbers on the stage any day of the week. The number of athletes at a show does not quantify how good your show is going to be. It's about the quality of people on the stage and taking the time through the judging. And that was a lot of fun at the Worlds, and that's something we'll be focusing very heavily on again with WNBF UK this year.
Yeah, having judged and been on stage, and also I watched Worlds this year, I know the amount of time that you're on stage for and having to work. And as a competitor, it's so appreciated, having that time, because you've put so much time, money, effort into getting to stage. If you then just get, I don't know, less than 10 minutes up there, it's just great. Especially if you don't do very well, it makes it even worse. You at least want to have some time up there. And then as a judge, it's so important to have the time, because you need to see people. If you're on the left, you need to see people on the right come get switched around. If they're not moving competitors around, as a judge, you haven't seen them to be able to judge them properly. And I think that's so important. Yeah, I see it every time that I'm at a WNBF show, that people really get worked hard. And it just feels great as a competitor up there. Great, and also not great because it's tiring, but you need to have done your posing homework.
I think that's it, though. It's when you've hit the nail on the head, and it's a good point for a lot of young athletes and new to the sport athletes, particularly for the first timers novice show that we'll have coming up. Do the due diligence and the time at home practicing it. People often think I'll do a wee bit of practice and I'll stand up there and I'll be fine. Once the lights are on you, the tan's on you, the nerves have kicked in, and the muscle spasms and the cramps start to come in, you'll realize, oh my God, this is a lot harder than it looks. And I think we see that we do start to see the level up at supernaturals, and we see as people get more experienced in this. But certainly from a first timer's perspective, do your work on the posing, work with people around you who know what they're doing, and get a good coach or work with your own coach on that. And just bring, I always speak to my pro prep athletes. We want to look pro level poised in an amateur setting. So every single time you're on stage, you want the attention to be on you because you're statuesque, you're quick in your transitions, you hit the pose without dilly-dallying, you switch on the muscles and you hold them, and you try not to flicker or hand move or adjust too much. So all these small little details that can just create the essence of you looking very finessed, even if you're at a very beginning starting point, and it will make all the difference to your first or second showing. Yeah, you
can absolutely see it on stage when people come out, and you can tell who's done their posing due diligence and who hasn't. And it's unfortunate sometimes someone can have the best physique, and you can kind of see it even as a judge maybe, If there's like, sometimes you can't, you have to kind of guess they have the best physique because they're not posing it well.
Yeah.
Whereas you have someone else who, like you said, they cross every T, they dot every I, they're making the most out of that physique they have, and they might take it then. Actually, I think that happened to Brian probably. I don't know, he probably won't listen to this, but I think on his, when he first had his stage outing, similarly was very, very competitive, but he just couldn't show it off.
Yeah.
Whereas his posing was much better this time round.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's an area that it shouldn't be underestimated, even when you're a good athlete, even when you're an experienced athlete. You can always find more ways of opening up, showing yourself. Obviously, you're improving your physique all the time, but we can get complacent as athletes who've, we've done very well, or you're continuing, you're pushing on. I saw quite a lot of the pro athletes across several divisions at the Worlds that you just think, how are you guys? And actually, I had Nancy on my left-hand side, Nancy is the president of WNBF Worlds official. She's a fantastic woman. And she said to me, she was like, why are these guys coming on here and they've not done their homework? They're untidy, they're not right. And she was getting frustrated with, and I can see her frustration. You've got some pro level athletes on stage that maybe their trunks don't fit very well. They're hanging down on their, hips, or they're just unkept, or they haven't thought about, coming on stage with that pro level poise. And these guys on that panel, they want to see that. And that transfers to me. I want to see that on my stage. I know other people want to see that on theirs across the European circuit. You suddenly start looking at the divisions differently when you're in a position like I am, where you want to raise the game of natural bodybuilding as a whole. You want people to look in at this. And obviously you saw at the Super, Steve, a lot of the routines that the athletes brought were fantastic, absolutely brilliant. We're starting to see people really take a sense of pride in presenting their physique in an aesthetic, that kind of more golden era flow way, which I love. And obviously we promote that with the golden era round as well. And we like to see that. But I'm starting to see a lot more pride being taken in them presenting. And that comes all the way down to the second you walk out on stage, how your suit fits, how you've done your hair, how you're presenting your face, expression, everything. It's everything now. It's not just a physique. It's the whole shebang. And we've got to see that right from the beginning all the way. And pros should be phenomenal. Yeah.
Do you not see the progress you would like? Are you sick of writing your own programs? Or perhaps you need some accountability in order to stick with a plan? Then it's time to start working with us. We at Revive Stronger offer a truly personalized coaching service. You'll get more than just an email with some macros or random cookie cutter program. With Revive Stronger, you will be the center of our attention. You will receive your own fully individualized training protocol alongside a customized nutritional strategy. We create the coaching around your needs, wants, personal preferences, and your own unique lifestyle. Every single week, we delve into your program in order to make appropriate adjustments so that we get the most out of your time and the best possible outcome. We help both female and male athletes to seriously change their body composition by adding more muscle mass and decreasing fat tissue. No matter if you're a competitive bodybuilder or just want to look better, if you need help with your progress and taking your physique to the next level, our coaching is for you. It's time to make a change. Sign up today and let's revive stronger.
I think at least this is my perspective, I think particularly the women do really well with their posing. Like generally it's better because I think it's, for some reason, it's just more apparent to them that it matters. Whereas especially bodybuilders, but you see it with men's physique guys as well a little bit, where they just think but bodybuilders, it's particularly like, it's just get big and then get really lean. And now I'll be as good as I can be on stage. It's like, you can get away with poor posing and become pro if you're just very, very good. But for like someone like myself, who's like trying their best to claw and maybe kind of get to that kind of pro card, I can't let anything fall by the wayside. And then that guy that could get away with it when he was an amateur can't get away with it when he's pro. He needs to now, like, every millisecond's counting when people are at that level. It's just,
no, you're absolutely right. You're right. It's like, I mean, where are the middle ground people? I don't know. You've got one or the other. And you're right. It's like you're either eking every single thing out to really get up to where you want to be. Or you're really good and maybe you've been told you're really good, or maybe you just know you're really good and you get kind of like lazy with it, you know? And that's sort of a mix of things there. But yeah, it's good to see the improvements in athletes coming into the game and start to take more pride in the performance element. And I think because social media is so massive now and people following journeys, and I love what you said about, you know, the journey is the most important thing, because it is really the pursuit of bodybuilding, the skills you learn, the discipline that you're kind of focused on at a micro level. You don't realize it at the time, but when you come away from that, the skills you have make you a more well-rounded human being. You're optimizing areas of your life and you're thinking about things in strategic ways that essentially will benefit all areas, your work, your relationships, you know, whatever you do. But then the posing element of it is just a really fantastic way to showcase who you are and what that journey is all about. You saw Samuel Hartman, of course, come across and do the guest posing. It was great to have him do a bit of guest posing, but he's pushing a movement there with obviously the posing side of things, which is great. But it's nice to sort of see a lot of young females as well. I would agree, you know, females tend to take a little bit, probably more time in their posing than the guys do. But I don't know whether some of that's just a gender thing, that we take more pride in that sort of stuff. I don't know. But certainly it's getting more and more important because we're visually seeing it more and more, and that's exciting for me as well. You can see it on the stage. Yeah.
And coming back to the journey element, and just because I thought people ask me sometimes, like, why have you stayed natural? Like, why haven't you gone to the enhanced side? And it comes back to what you really said, and I think you probably feel the same way. I get everything out of the natural side of the sport that the enhanced side would give me. Like, the things that I actually enjoy is the training, is the lifestyle, is, again, the characteristics and traits that it's developed in me, even down to like looking at keeping up to date with the science and being skeptical of things in other areas of life, and like not taking things for granted and just trusting anything that I see online, for example. Like it's all those elements, like the taking the performance enhancing drugs, I think might even add a layer of just stress and like worry and concern, and maybe I'd fill out clothes more and have more confidence in some areas, but honestly, I'm not sure it would.
No, I think it's a Pandora's box that opens up to a myriad of more problems. And if I was to kind of discuss it on a longer forum, I think that what you've spoken about there is, in essence, you getting to know yourself and not just putting weight on what another person is doing and following the crowd with that. You know, it's not really being, it's that sheep mentality in a sense. And I see a lot of people going into that side of the sport in that way, not really stopping and thinking, well, and it goes back to what I was saying, that 3-5 sort of, where am I long term? What does this mean for me? You know, when you start that, you open that can of worms, how is that going to impact my life? And am I okay with it? Because I think a lot of people think they are. And the reality of actually doing that's very different. Like I was trying to explain this to somebody who was asking me about natural bodybuilding in the gym the other day. And he was talking about assistance and why he wouldn't go down that route. And we were jesting a wee bit about it because that was the only way he could communicate about it. Because I could see it was obviously he was interested in what natural bodybuilding was all about. But all of his mates and, you know, the people that he's been seeing blow up are doing this.
Yes.
So why shouldn't he? You know, and there's the question. That's the question that lies in. And so you're trying to guide the conversation in a way that's not telling them, don't be stupid, you should do that. In a much more kind of a way that's asking them questions. So let's look at the reality. So you've got the guy on Instagram who's taking the assistance and he's blown up over here. But what's he doing to get that? And how is he doing it? So he's at home where nobody else is watching. The doors are closed and he is taking illegal drugs at home. And that's the reality. So the stark reality in my eyes is that that's a choice you're making as an individual when nobody else is watching. And you've got to be 100% okay with that, because it's not for the gram at that point. It's not for, you know, increasing likes or follows or shares, or it's the reality of you're purchasing and then doing something that is potentially going to affect your health long term, and you don't really know what these things are going to do. Maybe you are informed, maybe you are, and I'm not going to go down that route, but these are things that I like to kind of almost put in rational terms, because that is the reality. And with a lot of these young people, and I know one in particular who had huge anxieties around that, doing that. So when the moment came that it was like, oh, I'm going to be an assisted bodybuilder, couldn't do it. Thought could do it, but couldn't do it. And that's the kind of the difference. I think there's a huge, my goal, as I sort of said at the start here, is to try and help these younger people who maybe pose a question to me at certain points, get them to think about it in ways that are going to be informed decisions, not herd decisions, or shit, I need to be, massive now decisions. So I don't know if I'm explaining this all that well, but this is sort of the kind of some of the conversations I sometimes come up against, and I feel like it's a responsibility for me to help them think about it at least.
Yeah. It makes me think of that person who's they're at the top of the roller coaster and they're like, I can't take this ride. But you have those people that are less risk averse, and they'll just, looks fun, let's go on it. But it's not like a short roller coaster ride. It's something that has impacts in your life, like long term, that you can't take away.
I'd love to see some evidence around like that. People who've thought that they want to go down that route and have stopped themselves. I'd love to see if there was some evidence around, or statistics around that. But I don't know if that's a common story or not a common story. I don't know. But
no, I have no idea.
It's it certainly was an interesting one for me. And actually, that's your gut instinct saying something's not right here. This doesn't sit with me well. So, I'm a huge believer of gut instincts. If something feels right for you, stick with your gut. If something doesn't, stick with your gut. But I think, there's a big question around that. But certainly, do your due diligence, focus on, doing things in a healthy, sustainable way. And if you're new to this, compete naturally for a while, at least. First, if you've got the option, trust me, you're going to learn so much, and you'll probably find a lot of enjoyment through that journey that will lead you on to a lot of other things as well. The opportunities are massive, of course, especially within our federation, out with just competing too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it comes back to your point in terms of it's often glorified. They see the big physique, or the whatever it might be, the lean physique, the big physique, and they don't see everything else that's gone and led into that. Because I think a lot of enhanced competitors, like a lot of them do say, hey, I don't recommend this. Like, this has been tough. Like, it's not been an easy ride. Again, I don't take it for granted that I don't look at every enhanced competitor and just think they've cheated. No, I think they've worked really hard and done things I would not be willing to do to kind of get where they are. I remember seeing something. It was like, no one would want to be Elon Musk, because like to get to his level, like to not Elon Musk. Who is it? Who's the guy that invented Tesla? Elon.
Elon.
Oh, it is Elon Musk. Yeah. I had someone else in mind. But anyway, like to be him, like you don't just get his wealth and get Tesla and everything that he's invented. You have to be him. And he's like, no one would want to be me. It's not fun being me. Like, this is tough. Like, what goes on in his mind, the way he's had to like go through life. And I think people don't see that side on social media, of course, of being that huge enhanced competitor, all the kind of things they've had to go through, sacrifices, like risks to health, all those unwanted side effects.
I've put out quite a lot of kind of Instagram posts over the years, but a couple more recently about this particular topic, and doing things in a natural, healthy way, and kind of, I'm in a position where I'm not really worried about what people think. I have a job within my corner of the fitness industry to raise awareness of something I'm really passionate about, and I know will be so fulfilling for so many budding enthusiasts who want to do this sport in a clean way. But I think it's important that people do speak up and challenge what's become kind of normal across the fitness industry, especially online, with, oh, well, yeah, it's just okay. It's okay. They just take XYZ. That's why they're like that. And it's not okay. It's not an okay thing. It's become like a okay thing because people don't speak about the other side of it. And a lot of people feel scared about speaking about the other side of it for alienating themselves or isolating themselves, or that weird kind of grey area political thing that's in the bodybuilding industry, which, you know, you can't quantify, but we all know it's there. So it's important that people do speak, and that even just this podcast, just chatting away about it in an open forum. There's no right or wrong here. It's just people with thoughts and opinions and views, but essentially learn about what you're doing and make informed decisions, and listen to people that you believe in, trust, and you like, not just because they're popular or have a great Instagram following. That's a really important point as well, because that's how people can get kind of swept up in things, I think, a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think it is just, it's unfortunate because I think the people that need to hear it probably aren't going to hear this discussion, but no. Maybe it will reach some people. I think about it's the same with when you promote natural bodybuilding. I do. I'm like, the people that need to see this probably aren't going to see it. I was actually very thankful. Joe Jeffries collaborated with me on a post where I was like, you probably shouldn't take steroids. And he was like, this is great, because he is someone on that enhanced side who's like, yeah, I mean, I manage risk and reward and definitely educate people. And I, like, if there's someone who I don't think should, he wouldn't take them on and like encourage them to go down that route. And that was based off seeing like just start statistics, like 45% of people who have taken anabolic steroids in the UK was for non-competitive reasons. It was just for like, I don't know, lifestyle and
just to
like looking better. Yeah. And essentially I would have thought most of those people, they could have just done it naturally and got everything they could have from it without the risks and the side effects. So I do think it's an important discussion, but it is like, it's a challenging one for a lot of people because people kind of take it personally when you're not trying to be that way. And I think it's the way you tend to discuss it and the way I feel like we've discussed it here, whilst probably a bit of a biased discussion, has been like thoughtful to both like anyone who is on either side of that. And it's just being informed and educated and importantly aware of what is attainable naturally. I think like just so many people aren't aware of that.
Yeah, and it's being inspired by it. Like, it's just, you know, shining a light on, I'm going back to the world skies, but from a female and a male standpoint, the WNBF produces the best natural bodybuilders in the world. And you really do have to look at kind of the pinnacle of our sport to see what is achievable if you're really passionate about this and you've got, you know, a good foundation to work from and you're growing through this sport. And it's really exciting. And it's just as exciting as, say, what you might think of the bigger side of the sport, if you want to call it the bigger side of the sport. Just, you've got open side of the sport over here. It is much bigger. We're tiny in comparison. So you know, it's like this big massive thing and we're over here, but within our field, it's as important as what they're trying to do within their side. Yeah. So like they're shooting for an IFBB pro card. For us, it's shooting for that WNBF Pro card. Getting to the WNBF as a natural athlete is so hard. It is such an incredible achievement when you can finally get there, stand on a world stage with these international athletes, and the reward of them being able to really, you know, shout from the rooftops, like, look what I've achieved naturally. Look at the journey I've gone through. Look at, you know, the hard work and the miles I've put in and the testing I've gone through. And, you know, the competitiveness of natural bodybuilding is very fierce. It's an incredible accomplishment. And I think more people in natural bodybuilding should really speak about that and put weight on it. Because I think some within the natural bodybuilding community, we want to be seen to like all and do, you know, be kind of very balanced. But at the end of the day, you are over here in this side of the sport trying to be the best natural you can be. Talk about it. Be really open about it. I mean, you do so much incredible stuff, Steve, in terms of speaking about natural bodybuilding, talking about, you know, it from all different angles, collaborating with lots of different people to raise awareness. And it's really good to have people like you being role models for young athletes coming through the ranks, or you know, educating people across multiple different genres of information that lead back to why your endeavors and your pursuit of natural bodybuilding is going in the direction you're going in. And I think that's what's great, and that's what we need more of. So if somebody's listening to this and has a real passion for it and thinks this is my niche, this is what I want to do, get online and talk about it. And start, you know, promoting the sport as much as you can, and continue, I suppose, what I'm trying to do, which is building a very supportive community which brings people into something that's really enjoyable from a physical perspective, but also when you come and get involved in WNBF, as you know, there's lots of other things you can start to be part of if you're really into it. You know, the judging, being part of our actual show events. We had athletes who weren't competing come and support our world teams and be part of that across it in Seattle last year. There's so many different ways that you can be involved in the federation. I'm speaking about ours specifically here, than just the competition side itself. And that's pretty exciting if you're a coach or somebody who's in the industry like yourself, to be able to have an insight into other areas of this and grow with that too.
I appreciate the kind words, very much so. And like anything I can, it's crazy to think just like a passion of mine then became like wanting to help other people achieve it similarly. Yeah. And then like I've been when I compete this year, it will have been a decade of then competing. And it's kind of wild to look back at that journey and be like, hey, I've developed literally a career out of basically natural bodybuilding, which has been so fun. And then, it's very rewarding being able to judge and be on the other side and experience that. And then also then be able to really empathize with myself as I was not placing well and other competitors and like being at all levels. And then just being exposed to worlds and the competitive level there, it's its own world, which I think it just kind of gets ignored because the IFBB gets all the highlights, which I understand it's kind of like the Ferraris and we're a bit slower than that car, you know. It's not quite as extreme, and that's what's appealing.
Let's call ourselves a classic Porsche or something like that.
I like this. So I love everything that you had to say there. And you mentioned actually some exciting stuff that's happening in the UK this year. I think you mentioned, well, I know there's a first pro show. Love to hear more about that and the other events that are happening so people can be aware if they're looking at those.
Yeah, perfect. So thank you. Right, WNBF UK, we are doing 2 shows again this year, but one's just leveling up a little bit. So we have the First Timers Novice on the 16th of June, which we're really excited about for complete first timers and novice athletes, of course, which last year we had 170 athletes. It was absolutely fantastic. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the talent coming through again. We've already got a lot of numbers signed up for that show, so we're excited to just keep pushing. Yeah, so if you're someone listening to this, jump on the Instagram, go and have a look at what's available to you in June. Then we have the Supernaturals, of course, which is a pro-am this year. So it's a pro qualifying event, but it's also going to have its own, and I'm so excited about this. This has been like a passion of mine since, no joke, through my own athletic career, but since I took on, leading forward with events and promoting 4 years ago, this is what I've been envisioning in my head, if you like, to get to, which is having our very first UK pro show, but having the very first ever in the UK female pro show. And girls who may be listening to this, or pro athletes in the UK that may be listening to this, it's been always a very big, difficult thing for any UK female to be able to compete in pro shows because we don't have them in the UK in the natural circuit. The men have a couple of options, but the females don't. So we are starting with our Fit Body Pro show and our Men's Physique Pro show at the WNBF UK this year. And we're only starting with 2 divisions because, of course, we have to grow, and it is a prize money awarding event. So we will be offering prize money or the option for the money to be used towards full flights, accommodation, and a whole package to the States as part of the world if they want to go that way. But we will be doing Fit Body Pro shows, so the more athletic figure, and we will be doing Men's Physique. So that will be the addition to our Supernaturals, of course, which is an open international event. So the main show, as it has been for the last 3 years, will be open to all natural amateur athletes and will be the Team World Selection event. So we'll be selecting our British amateur and pro team. And for those of exceptional standard in the amateur divisions, we will be offering out the pro cards depending on, we don't put a number on it. It depends on, obviously the caliber of the athlete on the day. So new pros, Team World Selection, and our first ever female and male pro show in October. So be there.
That is, very exciting. I think Again, because Europe, it's grown, and I'm sure we'll draw people from Europe coming to the UK to compete.
Yeah.
And that's exciting to even kind of think about the level of competition. Is that it's all on the 6th then? So it's all running on one single day. You're not doing it over 2.
It's all running on the single day, and we're going to have the pro show is open to, of course, UK pros and international pros. So we'll have athletes from all over come to do the pro show, and it will be on the same day. Yeah, because we're doing 2 divisions.
It's
we
not
wanted
so big.
to keep it on. Yeah. Eventually, when we have a stacked out full, shebang pro show, which will be the eventual goal, that'll be secondary as we grow. And I should actually say as well, we're actually announcing this on the Instagram shortly, but we are announcing a couple of changes to the divisions as well. So we are going to be offering junior bikini and splitting physique into open and masters. So we're going to be
nice
a masters physique. Yeah. So to make this a little bit more fair for the larger classes, but also just to, within the bodybuilding, we break that down into more heights and age groups. So we wanted to give a little bit of diversity across the bikini and the men's physique division as well. So we'll be shortly announcing the options for those 2 for the up and coming events.
Yeah, I think, again, judging perspective, but looking outside in, like that makes a lot of sense. I think, especially like men's physique, if the younger guys are coming through, but we're wanting quite large like physiques, so it can be like a bit of a challenging thing for them. It's similar with bikini, really. Like their age comes into it too with your level of development and things. And there are big classes drawing a lot of people in, so you've got the ability to be able to split them up with it not being too crazy. So yeah, that's very exciting.
I think it's just, again, it's recognizing the age of the physique and being fair, particularly across the men's physique division. We do get a lot of masters athletes through, and they're very, very good. But such as a standard across the men's physique division, it's hard sometimes to compare, a 20-something-year-old men's physique competitor up against a 40-something men's physique competitor. And we've got to take that into consideration and allow for fair judging. So I think that's definitely been one that, speaking with Bob, Tina, and our international affiliates, we've got some amazing masters competitors across our divisions. The masters are really, coming through pretty strong. And I don't know if you remember the masters bodybuilder from last year, Paolo. I've forgotten his name.
Yes, I do remember him.
Absolutely outstanding. Where he came from, I have no idea. But we want to be able to give the masters the platform they deserve as well. And there's a maturity in their physique that's nice to really look at from a judging perspective fairly, And so I'm quite excited about splitting the men's physique and seeing how that goes.
I don't know if I believe he was actually masters. He looked too young. This is the natural physique.
He was insane. I mean, he was 40s in the masters over 40s. He was, again, another pocket rocket, right? He was like 5'7", 5'8", and just stacked. The guy was phenomenal. He just full muscle bellies, great, nice conditioning. He had a very young, fresh looking physique. Yeah. Lovely posing, great look, really, really good. His shape was great, really great. So
the top 3 was so competitive from what I remember. Like I was like, it could go anyway.
Like first class on the day. Absolutely brilliant. It was great. So very much looking forward to seeing the standard coming through this year and just promoting the journey again, really getting people excited about competing. We're ramping up, of course, our socials. We had a lot of fun with our countdown across Christmas and really empowering the natural community with the coaches, the people involved, the athletes on stage, and getting the community to start supporting the community for what it is. That's what we're all about. So there'll be a lot more of that happening within the sort of the structure of what we're putting out over this year.
And the other thing I love about the masters category is quite often that can still be your pinnacle physique as a natural, whereas over 40 as an enhanced competitor, quite often that's like the other side. People are retiring, what have you, whereas you can keep it, like it's a very like you could be at your peak and hold that for a long time. So anyway, I've spoken about that enough. But
I think you make a massively valid point. I mean, the physiques tend to get better, like a fine wine, Steve.
Yes.
Getting better, you know, just really, we do see a lot of these men's, look at how long Clifton has been competing. And I mean, Clifton Wright, I mean, he's just all mass. If he's listening, you need to get a bit sharper, mate. But next time,
Clifton, he came third, right?
Yeah.
In the end, yeah, I remember Clifton. Yeah. Little leaner, and he would have done. He would
just a touch more condition. But you know, the size of these guys, and they look healthy, and that's where that natural, you know, the natural look really does shine through. We're looking at clean lines, healthy physiques, and that really, with the age, you're getting those that slightly thinner skin, so the muscle just looks very crisp. A good example of that, Steve Howarth, massive competitor, phenomenal competitor. He brings
Stuart as well.
Stuart
Crazy.
McCulloch, Lauren Brown. Gosh, we've got a load. The Taylor, Anthony Taylor. You know, we've got a lot of these guys who are showcasing masters muscle and, you know, putting a lot of the young kids to shame. Like, you know, they're inspiring.
Yeah.
And that's something that we really want to be, you know, shining a light on, is the longevity within the sport is quantifiable. It's real. It's tangible. It's doable. And so that's definitely something to shine a light on. And if, you know, when we're comparing it to the opposite side, we tend to see a decline. And yeah, a very big stark difference.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, I wouldn't be happy if I didn't ask this question, Steph, because I was going to ask you at the start when we were talking about kind of your impressive competitive resume, which, by the way, we didn't even speak about what you've actually been able to achieve. So I'd love to hear just again, what's your resume there? But then also, what's the future for Steph, the competitor? Is there still room in that for you in your life for competing?
Oh, well, I've definitely got one more in me. There's no doubt about that. So resume wise, I mean, it's funny. I always feel quite shy when I go talking about this side of it, because I do so much. I think, and I don't know how you feel about it, Steve, but from my perspective, the enjoyment I get out of encouraging others and creating a platform for others to do this far outweighs my love for standing on stage myself. Far outweighs it. But it took me a wee while to kind of get to that. But in saying that, I do have one last. I do want to get up there again, and it was going to be this year. I'm still umming and ahhing. I've got about a month and a half to kind of figure that out before I have to drop into a prep, but it certainly will be, if not this year, it'll be 25. So I am now just planning my contest prep. I spent a lot of time out of not consistent training, but just not the type of training I really wanted in terms of intensity level last year, with the events and with my own coaching and doing a lot of traveling. So this year I've got everything in ducks in a row, feel very content. I've got a really clear strategy. So, and my training's going great. So I'm really looking forward to kind of just pulling up a bit of what I've lost, and then I'll be happy to move into a prep. But yeah, I suppose accolades wise, is that kind of how we want to go about it? I'm a 3-time British figure champion across all of the natural federations. I'm a 2-time figure and fit body pro with WNBF, and it was DFAC at the time. And I have competed since 2013 with a year on, year off strategy all the way up to my second pro win in 2019 with WNBF. And now I'm preparing the comeback for my own athletic career, whilst, you know, pushing forward in my own job here as president for WNBF UK. So I've worked really hard and I've learned a hell of a lot. And I think the whole idea around me taking on WNBF UK was born out of really my want as I think I've probably spoken to you about this before, but my want as a natural competitor to have a journey that was really positive and fulfilling and what's the word? Involved in the right reasons, and that I felt like my journey as an athlete was being supported and encouraged. And I think from doing all of the different natural feds, there was positives and negatives in them all, but nothing really fully fit what I felt I would have loved, especially in the early stages of my competitive career, a journey to the stage. And so when I was presented with the opportunity to take this on, and Steve Harris can talk about this, about 2 years before I took on WNBF UK, I turned to him in a gym in Leeds and I said, would you ever run a natural bodybuilding federation? And he said, no chance. Are you joking? You must be absolutely mad. It would be an absolute minefield. It would be horrendous. And I had no consideration of doing anything like this. 2 years later, I sent Steve a message saying, I think I've gone and done it. And the journey began with WNBF UK. And it was just a wild way that things all kind of came about. I just felt this calling to do this, and I really wanted to really push forward with it. And where I was in my own athletic career, I'd taken my WNBF Pro card, I'd gone over to the Worlds in New York, I'd really got a feel for the guys, I'd spoken at length about where I wanted to go and what I was doing. And it all came out of what you said earlier, which is amazing to think that this little thing that you started doing in 2012 to prepare for your first competition in 2013 has now provided me an incredibly fulfilling career, and now something I can give in abundance back, which is what I'm super passionate about. So very proud of my athletic endeavours, probably even more so of what I'm now doing to lead forward in something that I know needs it, you know? So that's kind of a bit of my story. And 2024, if I could get my act together in a month. 25.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what goes into running and organizing such events that you do. I have organized and ran seminars and various things like this, but I'm not having to organize as many people as what you are, and testing and everything that goes into that. Like, the success that the WNBF UK has seen since it started, has been huge from what I've seen, and every year grown. And that's just credit to you and what you've been putting into it. And everything that you've learned, I think, has come through as well. Like you said, taking all the good bits and leaving the bad from your experiences. And I think, speaking as a competitor and also having spoken to many competitors through the WNBF, like it's a really good experience, and people feel like they want to continue down that route. And you see that through the same people coming back to the stage already with even the short time that we've had. So that's awesome, but very exciting also that you are considering to get back on stage this year. That's very cool.
They're going to swallow me now, Steve. You know, I was feedback a few years ago. The girls now, I mean, even when I was at the Worlds, I turned to Bob and I said, am I going to be able to beat that? And he was like, you just need to get into the gym a bit longer. Honestly, they're phenomenal. They're phenomenal.
Is this figure or fit body? Do you have like a...
I'll be fit body.
That makes sense.
The type of conditioning I like to drive down to, it suits that class. And I love that class. I love the more gnarly figure look. I like that kind of depth to the muscle and just pushing it that little bit for the conditioning. I've always been like that. So that's definitely what I'd be sitting in. And that's where my pro card is with WNBF as well, with the fit body class. So I'd be pushing for that. But certainly, I've got a lot of work to do.
Will you be an amateur at this point now?
I would be able to be. So I'd be going into the pro division. So I've renewed my pro card. I've always been keeping up on sort of doing that. So it would be a case of just jumping back in and seeing how I would flow. 2019 was my last showing, so I'll have definitely made some improvement. Whether it's enough that I would have liked to be at this level, just with the nature of how my life is taking course and the change in direction and focusing, business. Yeah. It's a different vehicle. It is a different vehicle. And I should say, you mentioned, I don't know how you do it. I have so many great people in the background working with me on this passion project, and these guys have come to the shows. They're involved in the drug testing, the mechanics of the shows, the actual general, getting this off the ground. I'll mention Stuart Love as well, who is phenomenal. You've probably seen Stuart at our events. Yeah. He's been an integral part in basically the commercial sort of direction of what we're doing here too. And I've always believed that you can never lead something just yourself. You have to bring in and have a great network of people that are all wanting the same thing for the industry, that support the mission of this. Because that within bodybuilding, you're not making it's not like a kind of stereotypical business where it's money oriented and you're trying to grow that way. We're growing in a different way with trying to push forward a movement and keeping raising awareness of it. And so the people that have been involved, yourself included, and a lot of other people who've come and judged for us, been backstage, really got behind it, we couldn't do it without them at all. So it's been a credit to a lot of people that have believed in us from the start, because it was hard at the beginning, but we're really getting somewhere now. So I'm really privileged to have people in our corner wanting the same things, really. Yeah.
That is amazing. And I think that's a really nice way to wrap up kind of the discussion as a whole. Like, as a natural bodybuilding, we need to continue to support one another, continue to grow the community, get behind everyone, get behind the WNBF UK. And I'm excited for this year. And I mean, you've got the pro show here now, so you have to compete.
I know, exactly, right? I'm like, I can't get up on my own stage. That would just be really cringe. But yeah, there's definitely some hype there, and I know a few of the pro athletes already looking forward to that.
Amazing.
And the hype is just about to kind of start coming on the Instagram page and just generally announcing what this is all about.
Yeah.
It's, as you said at the start before we jumped on here, it's 3 weeks into January. It's crazy. It's already feeling like, you know, the momentum's kicking in, and there's almost that feeling of like chasing to catch up. I don't know if you feel it's never enough hours in the day, but I'm really looking forward to just engaging people with this concept of what we're doing and why this is so important for UK natural bodybuilding. Having a pro show in UK, building up towards the Worlds, and you never know, the Worlds might be in the UK at some stage.
That would be very exciting. Yeah. So, Steph, thank you so much for your time and like taking me through your kind of background, what you got into it. And it's been a nice story actually talking about kind of where you started, where the WNBF UK are now, why natural bodybuilding is something that you're so big on and kind of proud to discuss and want to grow. So yeah, thank you for that. And if people want to keep up to date with everything that you're doing, the WNBF are doing, where should they be heading?
Sure. So WNBF is at WNBF_UK on Instagram, WNBFUK.com, and you can join the community group on Facebook as well. If you just type in WNBF UK community group, we discuss lots of topics in there. Myself, you can find me on Instagram, Steff_Noble_figure pro, and coaching, proprepcoaching.com, and just all the good stuff in between. There's lots of stuff out there, but it's been a pleasure, and I really appreciate you having us on here to talk about something that we're both hugely passionate about.
For sure. I'll make sure that's all linked where the links are found so you guys can find that. And thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Cheers.
Losing weight fast while maintaining muscle mass. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? It isn't though. It's reality, and we know how to do it, and we will help you achieve this. The Minicut movement is an 8-week fat loss program to make you lose a huge chunk of fat while maintaining muscle mass at the same time. We will support you from the beginning to the end so that you see the results you would like to and come out of it much stronger. You'll receive a fully automated spreadsheet that is based on your nutritional needs. You can choose between 6 different male and female training templates. Over 30 videos will guide you through each and every single step of the Minicut so that you're getting the most out of your journey and that you always know what to do. But the best thing is that you can start whenever you want. The Minicut movement is open 24/7. So if you want to learn more or you're ready to sign up, hit the link in the description below. So let's revive stronger together.